Welcome to the Three Martini Lunch. Grab a stool next to Greg Columbus of Radio America and Jim Garrity of National Review. Three Martinis coming up.
Hey, glad you're with us again for the Friday edition of the Three Martini Lunch. Your stool awaits. We've got good, bad, and crazy. Maybe it's actually good, crazy, and crazy, but the first crazy's got a lot of bad in there too. So anyway, glad you're with us. We've made it through another week. Hopefully you can make it through all the anniversary retrospectives of the onset of the lockdowns, Jim, because there's nothing as exciting or depressing in reality than realizing that you've been doing this for a year. But our good news is today that people listen to the Three Martini Lunch, even in Albany, which is deep, deep blue. Just yesterday we were saying, sure, you got all these Democrats saying it's time for Cuomo to resign, but he's not going to resign, so what are you people going to do about it? Is anybody actually ready to call for impeachment who has any power to make it happen? And apparently the answer to that is yes, after obviously our very effective discussion of this yesterday, Jim. This is a statement from the Speaker of the New York Assembly. After meeting with the Assembly Majority Conference today, I am authorizing the Assembly Judiciary Committee to begin an impeachment investigation led by Chair Charles D. Levine to examine allegations of misconduct against Governor Cuomo. The reports of accusations concerning the governor are serious. The committee will have the authority to interview witnesses, subpoena documents, and evaluate evidence as is allowed by the New York State Constitution. I have the utmost faith that Assemblymember Levine and the members of the committee will conduct an expeditious, full, and thorough investigation. This inquiry will not interfere with the independent investigation being conducted by Attorney General Letitia James. And so, Jim, on one hand, this could be to string things out, let the media get distracted by something else, but there's already at least 55 state assembly members calling for Cuomo to go. In addition to that statement, the investigation will also be about the nursing home scandal, not just about the sexual harassment and assault allegations. So we'll see where this goes. We also know that 11 of 19 U.S. House members who are Democrats are now calling for Cuomo to go. Haven't heard anything from the senators yet, but it would appear the momentum is continuing to grow. And now that there's actual impeachment movement, that could be significant.
Yeah, and it's once you get the ball rolling, these things do tend to kind of create their own momentum. There hasn't been any exculpatory evidence. There's been no reason to think that any of the women are not accurately describing what they allege Cuomo doing this to them. In one case, we literally have a photo of it happening. Cuomo's excuses and explanations haven't gotten any more detailed or made any more sense. In most of these cases, he's still sticking to I had no idea that, these women didn't like this. And I think the allegation stemming at the woman at the governor's mansion with aggressive roping and things like that, that really sounds like one of the worst ones. So it really does sound like the allegations are getting worse. It's getting harder and harder for Democrats to not call for his resignation. As we talked yesterday, and I turned it into a corner post, and it's turned into a kind of I think a pretty darn strong argument. That level of wrongdoing, where you say, the person should resign, but I myself am not willing to take any action over it. And I myself am not willing to impeach or remove from office. That really doesn't make a lot of sense because you've already decided the guy shouldn't be in office any longer. But you're saying whether or not he stays in office should be up to the person who you've just said has done terrible things and showed terrible judgment and shouldn't be in office anymore. There's kind of a lack of internal consistency there. So I suspect at some point the Democrats would have to say, at some point, you'd have to then vote against impeachment. At some point, you'd have to then vote, say, I don't think we should move forward with this investigation. And I think it's going to be a very tough vote for New York Democrats to make. Now, Andrew Cuomo still has a lot of power. And I guess one of the things I kind of want to say to these Democratic lawmakers is that if you say, I think he should resign, but I don't support impeachment, that doesn't really create any pressure on him to resign. Because he knows you're not going to do anything, right? Why should he give up the governorship if you've made very clear you're going to live with him being governor if he just chooses not to leave? If you say, I support impeaching this governor, then now it creates a little more pressure to resign, because if he resigns, at least he can go out on his own terms. Thinking of the precedent of Nixon, I think you could probably look at Al Franken as an example of a guy who began to fear serious consequences from his colleagues, censure, or maybe even eventually people moving to remove him. Now, by the way, a lot of Democrats then said, we were so harsh on Al Franken. We had such a rush to judgment. Franken is at 8, and the last score we were at, Cuomo's got 6 women making accusations against him. So you add it all up, I think this is building towards it's very slowly building towards a serious impeachment effort against Cuomo. I don't like to use the phrase "the walls are closing in" after hearing it as a mantra for the better part of the 4 years of the Trump administration. But I think it's safe to say that the governor is in hot water and the temperature is rising, and fewer Democrats are going to be willing to take any kind of a political hit in order to keep him in office.
Another thing we learned, Jim, which is probably not going to help Andrew Cuomo, and we're not in the business of trying to help Andrew Cuomo, certainly. But the Wall Street Journal has discovered, quote, in the days after Governor Cuomo was first accused of sexual harassment by a former aide, the governor's office called at least 6 former employees, either to find out if they had heard from the accuser or to glean information about her in conversations that some said they saw as attempts to intimidate them. Some of the people who received the calls said they hadn't heard from the administration in months before getting the call about the accuser. So there's nothing that says I didn't do it than having your lackeys call up people you haven't talked to in years and saying, hey, you got any dirt on these ladies?
I was going to say, that really should be the sort of thing, like if you had any wavering, if there was any part of you as a lawmaker who's like, the fact that he began, by the way, this fits, by the way, with his public bullying behavior. We've seen in his press conferences, other state lawmakers have said about, the idea of the governor calls them up in the middle of the night and screams profanities at them, This fits that pattern of behavior. And, if sexually harassing people, your employees, is very wrong, then attempting to smear the reputations of the ones who come forward. I mean, who does this guy think he is, Greg? Bill Clinton?
Exactly. The funny thing about this, Jim, is that it appears that part of this effort, at least if the Wall Street Journal is correct, is that this effort was in part kicked up by Melissa DeRosa, who is one of Cuomo's top assistants, and she's the one who tipped off the legislators about the nursing home scandal, which was really the tip of the iceberg on all of this not that long ago. And so the fact that she's still one of the ardent defenders and the fact that she's the one who kind of kickstarted this unintentionally is quite fascinating. But nothing looking good for Cuomo, and in these circumstances, that's definitely good news. But we've got good news in terms of a good deal for you on pillows. From MyPillow, did you know that in addition to all the good work that they do on their pillows, that MyPillow is giving the same attention and quality to their towels and sheets? Right now, 3 Martini Lunch listeners can buy one, get one free on all 6-piece towel sets, as well as the Giza Dream Sheet sets.
MyPillow towels have proprietary technology that makes them highly absorbent. They're soft to the touch without that lotiony feel. They have a 10-year warranty and a 60-day money-back guarantee. They're washable, they're dryable, and they have 7 colors you can choose from.
The Giza Dreams bed sheets are made with the world's best cotton, and the sateen weave gives them a luxurious finish that will have you sleeping great. A 10-year warranty and 60-day money-back guarantee for the sheets as well. Washable and dryable with a wide variety of colors and sizes to fit any style. Also, visit MyPillow.com to learn more. Right now, 3 Martini Lunch listeners, as we said, all 6-piece towel sets and Giza sheets are buy one, get one free. Just use the promo code MARTINI at checkout or call 800-874-0104. That's MyPillow.com, code MARTINI, or call 800-874-0104 for buy one, get one free on all 6-piece towel sets and Giza Dream Sheets. All right, Jim, let's talk about yesterday's first primetime address from President Biden. Did it from the East Room with that famous hallway behind him a little bit earlier than usual. I caught a replay of the speech because I just assumed it was at 9 o'clock. Silly me, realizing that Joe might have a slightly earlier bedtime than Donald Trump. Let's talk about 2 things that really kind of annoyed me. First of all, whatever you think of Trump releasing statements the last couple of days of, hey, if you like your vaccine, remember to thank me. But nonetheless, last night, Biden acting like nothing was getting done on the vaccine front until he walked into office, even though he had received both doses of his vaccine at that point. Here's how he tried to couch it, that his administration is responsible for where we're at right now.
In my first full day in office, I outlined for you a comprehensive strategy to beat this pandemic. We've spent every day since attempting to carry it out. 2 months ago, this country didn't have nearly enough vaccine supply to vaccinate all or ever near all of the American public. But soon we will. We've been working with vaccine manufacturers, Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, to manufacture and purchase hundreds of millions of doses of these 3 safe, effective vaccines.
And of course, Jim, the vaccine distribution process has considerably ramped up since January 20th, and his administration deserves credit for that. There was also, at the end of the speech, what I think he described and hoped was a hopeful theme of, hey, if everybody does what they're supposed to, gets vaccinated, stays safe, we might be able to get together with some folks to celebrate July 4th. Here's how that sounded.
If we do our part, if we do this together, by July the 4th, there's a good chance you, your families and friends will be able to get together in your backyard or in your neighborhood and have a cookout and a barbecue and celebrate Independence Day. That doesn't mean large events with lots of people together, but it does mean small groups will be able to get together.
But to a lot of folks with perhaps a little more of a libertarian mindset than Joe Biden of, if you're all really good and you all behave like I tell you to, I might let you get together in 4 months. Might not have come across exactly how he thought, even though a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel for a lot of people is a hopeful sign. So, Jim, some encouraging notes, but overall, a guy who refuses to share the credit when he wants to be a unifier, and a little bit of nanny statism there that we could do without.
Yeah, I think you put your finger on it. By the way, the New York Times, of all places, had a really good front page story yesterday that talked about what parts of the vaccination program got started by Operation Warp Speed and the Trump administration, and what parts the Biden administration expanded. And the Times came across with they both deserve credit. The first steps are actually going to be the hardest one, and the Trump administration got that going. And then, as more vaccines became available, the Biden administration was able to really, increase the purchase orders, increase distribution, get them out the door faster. Look, I'm willing to give the Biden administration credit for what it's gotten done. I do think they should be. I guess the other thing that kind of nags at me, Greg, is like the campaign's over, right? There's no political harm in saying, Operation Warp Speed did a really good job, and Salawi and Gus Perna and everybody who was involved in that was terrific. Oh, by the way, we've had this argument before. Remember that, Biden and Kamala Harris had made this, or at least, first of all, there are unnamed Biden sources, and then Kamala Harris said, we inherited nothing. We had to start from scratch. Now, on the second day, I'm pretty sure it was the second day of the Biden administration, Saint Dr. Fauci went before the podium and said, no, they didn't, they expanded on some things. We've had some things we wanted to do and all that stuff we're doing, but by no means were they starting from scratch. Now, some people are going to point out that, why Anthony Fauci might be one of those guys who wanted to insist they're not starting from scratch?
Because he started from scratch.
Because Fauci was there. You can't say, oh, yeah, I did nothing till January 20th. I completely slacked off until Biden was in office, and then I got on the job. Obviously, that's a nonsense argument, right? So it would do Biden no harm to say, hey, you know what? I have a lot of problems with my predecessor. I have a lot of disagreements. But on this one, thank you guys for getting Operation Warp Speed going and getting that initial, vaccine efforts going. We've been able to expand it and bring it to many more people, et cetera, et cetera. The second thing is, and I don't think I have to rehash for our podcast listeners because they've probably heard me go on about this over and over again. The 100 million shots in 100 days was actually a fairly low threshold. We were doing 1 million shots a day before Biden took office. So that by itself. Now, once you raise it to 150 million shots in 100 days, that's a little bit better. And actually, we're going to hit 100 million shots administered probably today or tomorrow or something like that. And we're averaging now more than 2 million shots a day. You can do the math on this. You can get really close to 200 million shots done in those first 100 days. By the way, that's really good. Oh, by the way, I feel like there are times where you just insert the gif of Will Ferrell screaming, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. What frightens us about the coronavirus? Well, is that it could kill us. Now, the thing is that, 90% close to 99% of people who get this will not die. Actually, more than 99%. And the people who are at highest risk of dying are those who either are elderly or those who have what they call comorbidities, which sounds really, really morbid and grim. But, basically the gist is if you got some pre-existing health problem. And oh, by the way, some of these pre-existing health problems are really common in this country. High blood pressure, diabetes, obesity. If you've had cancer treatments, your immune system made for one reason or another, you're smokers and people who have, previous respiratory problems, asthma, right? If you got any of those things, you getting a respiratory infection from SARS-CoV-2 and suffering COVID-19, you're probably going to be fine, but your chances of pulling through are a little bit less than for everybody else. And your chances of ending in the hospital are a little higher than for everybody else. Does this mean you should panic? No, but it means you got to take it seriously. if you can get to the point where people, now we really have never had much reason to say, oh my God, 18 to 35-year-old adults are going to drop dead because of this. At least not if they have no pre-existing, conditions or health issues or something. Even, you look at the numbers of people and their octogenarians and all. The good news is like 90% of them are pulling through. To get less than 90% survival rate, you got to go up to like 80 people above age 85. That's pretty close to our regular life expectancy as is. So we shouldn't, again, I'm the last person in the world who'd say downplay this, don't treat this as a big deal. This is a big deal. 525,000 Americans dead is a really, really big deal. But we're now well into the process of vaccinating the most vulnerable. Honestly, once you've gotten the senior citizens vaccinated, which we're making good progress on, once you've got the people with other conditions vaccinated, I'm not going to say we're golden, but we're in really good shape. We really should. Our caseload may continue. You can still catch it, but we're not worried about people catching it. We're worried about people ending up in the hospital and dying of it. That's, if all COVID-19 could do is make you sick for a couple of days, well, then it'd just be the flu. We don't shut down the country over the flu every year, right? We get our vaccines and we try to get through, and a whole bunch of various strains of the flu aren't covered by the vaccine we get every year. And you get sick for a couple of days, you stay home from work, you stay home from school, and life goes on. That's victory condition when it comes to SARS-CoV-2. So my sense is, again, I'm not going to put a precise date on it, but we're making really good progress at more than 2 million doses a day. It's March 12th. It's a 1-year anniversary of when everything went to pot, shall we say. By April, we'll be in really good shape. By Memorial Day, I think we'll be in really good shape, having vaccinated just about everybody who's at least vulnerable and also willing to get it. Now, if you're not willing to get the vaccine, hey, look, that's your choice. That's your decision. I'm not going to make you do it. I'm not going to run down the street and jab you myself, although the thought has crossed my mind. But I am going to say, so at that point, okay, you're on your own. Like if you end up succumbing to COVID and because you chose not to get vaccinated and you're not allergic to it, you don't have some health reason, you're allergic to an ingredient in the vaccine, that's on you. All right. I'm not changing my behavior because you refuse to get the vaccine. But anyway, I think by early summer, we're going to have vaccinated just about everybody who wants to get vaccinated and who really needs to get vaccinated. And at that point, Americans should be getting together for backyard barbecues. At that point, they should be going to the movies. Let them go into the restaurants at least 50% capacity, if not full capacity. Because at that point, we'll all be protected against the worst case scenarios. We don't need protection from getting sick at all because we get sick from stuff all the time. Although ironically, the flu season has been really, really exceptionally mild this year. Probably because everybody's washing their hands like crazy and everybody's wearing masks and nobody's shaking hands anymore. And we're generally interacting with each other less than we did in previous years. Anyway, that's a really long way of laying that out. But the short version is that actually the Biden is trying to sound really bold and like he's got this amazing schedule to get us back to normal. But in fact, he's really dragging his feet on this. And I mentioned in a corner post yesterday, Biden wants to get the country back to normal when if there's anybody in the country who really doesn't want to get back to normal, it's probably various Democratic allies of Joe Biden, like the teachers' unions, for example. So we'll see. But another kind of fun thing to keep in mind, Greg, is that 50 days from now, Biden says wasn't going to extend masks anymore. It'd be really interesting to see if he actually keeps to that, or if at that point, we just decided you need it for another 2 months or so. Because remember, people are treating Texas as if it's now Mad Max because they rescinded their state one, and still got to wear it in Walmart, still got to wear it in HEB, all that kind of stuff. So.
Well, I'm sure Dr. Fauci will have 7 or 8 competing and conflicting opinions between now and then. 6 masks, 2, 3, none, whatever. I mean,
hang on, let me roll my 20-sided die to see what the Fauci opinion is. A little D&D humor for everybody out there.
Whatever question has come up in the past 12 months, he's been on at least 2 different sides of it. So amazing. But part of it, obviously, you want to get the credit for things opening back up, but at the same time, there's a sense of you can't let the crisis go to waste. I think they see that with the COVID relief bill, even though things are clearly easing up over the past 2 months. And be interesting to see what else they try to cram through related to this emergency, whether it's infrastructure. We might as well do it while everybody's still not back to full strength on commuting and everything, but they're going to try more, and it's going to cost us a lot if it gets through. So crazy. But what's not crazy? Saving money. The government won't save money and won't save you money probably. But when it comes to actually saving money for yourself or for your business, Stamps.com is the way to go, because no matter what you're doing, let's face it, taking time to make that trip to the post office, probably not how you want to spend your time. So that's why we recommend mailing and shipping online at Stamps.com. Stamps.com allows you to mail and ship anytime, anywhere, right from your computer. You can send letters, ship packages, and pay a lot less with discounted rates from the United States Postal Service, UPS, and more.
Stamps.com brings the services of the U.S. Postal Service and UPS right to your computer. Stamps.com is a must-have for any business, whether you're a small office that's sending out invoices, or an online seller that's shipping out orders, or even a giant warehouse sending out thousands of packages a day. Stamps.com can handle it all with ease. You simply use your computer to print official U.S. postage 24/7 for any letter, any package, any class of mail, anywhere you want to send. And once your mail is ready, just schedule a pickup or drop it off. It's just that simple. With Stamps.com, you get discounts of up to 40% off of post office rates and up to 62% off of UPS shipping rates. Not to mention, Stamps.com is a fraction of the cost of those expensive postage meters. Stamps.com is a no-brainer, saving you time and money. It's no wonder that nearly 1 million small businesses already use Stamps.com.
Stop wasting time going to the post office and go to Stamps.com instead for all the reasons Jim just mentioned. Plus, there's no risk, and with our promo code 3Martini, you get a special offer that includes a 4-week trial plus free postage and a digital scale without long-term commitments or contracts. Just go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage, and type in 3Martini, all one word. That's Stamps.com, promo code 3Martini. Stamps.com. Never go to the post office again. And Jim, when you see how much you can save on postage, particularly if you do a lot of mailing, whether it's through the Postal Service or UPS, you'll see that credit card bill, especially for your business, and you'll say, all right. Which brings us to Matthew McConaughey. Matthew McConaughey is thinking about running for governor of Texas in 2022. And he was asked about it seriously today by Al Roker on the Today Show.
Correct me if I'm wrong, you are considering running for Texas governor?
Look, it's a very honorable consideration. So am I considering that? Sure, it's a great thing and an honorable thing to be able to consider. What I've got to choose for myself is I want to get into a leadership role in the next chapter of my life. Now, what role am I going to be most useful in? I don't know that that's in a political position or if that's me as a free agent. So that's something I'm personally working on, is what is my position of most use in a leadership role.
So, Jim, he's decided he wants a leadership role now in this phase of his life. Isn't sure if politics is the way he wants to do that, but he's clearly thinking about it. It's an honor. I mean, there's lots of bongo drum jokes out there, possibly a governor being high. Wouldn't be the first time, I'm sure. Jerry Brown was governor, especially that first time. But what do you make of the celebrification of politics yet again in this situation? And whether Matthew McConaughey would be an interesting candidate? You assume that he'd probably be a lefty, but he has said some things over the years that would give you pause. I mean, he's clearly not qualified in the normal sense, but what do you make of this?
I think if you asked me 3 times how I felt about McConaughey running compared to other celebrities, Greg, I'd have to answer, I feel all right. All right. Because once you used it the first time, I had nowhere else to go with that joke. Anyway, so the one observation, I don't see him running as a Republican. I'm, 99 times out of 100, I'm going to prefer a Republican to a Democrat. 99 times out of 100, I'm going to prefer a Texas Republican to a Texas Democrat. But one thing, I do feel a slightly better vibe towards Matthew McConaughey than towards a lot of other celebrities. And among them is that, he's probably left-leaning, but he's never given off a vibe of being a particularly partisan guy or eager to be kind of combative or dismiss what you assume would be one half of his audience. And because he's from Texas, he's deeply rooted there, you're just not going to see him sneering. He's not reflexively opposed to red state culture because he's from red state culture, and he clearly loves the state of Texas and all that kind of stuff. And the other thing that kind of jumps out is I remember he tried to offer this semi-inspirational, not quite fireside chat, but right around this time 1 year ago, He issued this video. It went up on social media, and it was clearly off the cuff. It was not Winston Churchillian oratory. It was not, remarkably eloquent. But he said, we're heading into something really frightening and uncertain, and we don't really know what it's hand, but this can also be our finest hour. This can be the moment where we all look at each other and said, hey, we all help each other get through that. And it's something we can all be proud of. And we can say that, we can demonstrate that we will be there for each other through this hardest of times, even if we physically can't be close to each other. It was an attempt to be a very unifying sentiment. It was a time when everybody else in Hollywood was on this, knee-jerk, frothing at the mouth, furious at the president attitude. He just wanted to reassure people and let us know that we had the ability to make a difference in this circumstance. I thought it was a really good one. There was a nice modesty and humility to the tone that didn't necessarily come across in, say, Gal Gadot getting all of her friends to sing Imagine. And I got to point out, Greg, Gal Gadot is just a goddess. And I don't just mean that because she plays Wonder Woman or just because she's Israeli. And, the one time I went to Israel, Greg, I found the country just three things in just absolute abundance: beautiful women, automatic weapons, and beautiful women carrying automatic weapons. And I just wanted to, so that video that her playing Imagine and all that stuff, all those celebrities in their palatial homes out in Hollywood singing "We're All in This Together." Yeah, it didn't do much for me back then. So Matthew McConaughey, I'm going to have a warmer, fuzzier feeling towards. I still don't necessarily know if the guy's qualified. And you think the experience of Jesse Ventura might say to some celebrities, and even Arnold Schwarzenegger for that matter, that sense of governing is hard. Governing is hard work. It's not just smiling and reading speeches and stuff. And finally, if based on the track record of governors, Greg, should we at least stick with the cast of Predator and go with Carl Weathers or somebody?
I don't know if he's a Texan, but he's done a good job in The Mandalorian. So
this is a man who knows how to make a deal, and his heart is in the right place eventually.
That's right, but he sometimes takes an underdog too lightly. He learned that the hard way. That was a long time ago. Hopefully he's learned his lesson. But in terms of McConaughey, if he does run, number one, I hope he does some internal monologue commercials like he did when he was pitching Lincoln, which made no sense.
Yeah.
Also,
he did it for both Chrysler and Wild Turkey, and they had a very similar vibe. And I'm I hope he's not drinking the Wild Turkey while he's driving Chrysler or whatever.
Oh, was it Chrysler? I don't even remember. But the other thing is, who's thinking about running, at least on the Democratic side, is Beto. And I'll say this, dead serious. If it's McConaughey Beto, I'm McConaughey all the way.
Right? It's like he's trying to play a Matthew McConaughey character without being Matthew McConaughey and able to pull. Do you just Beto O'Rourke is an Owen Wilson character. Now that you have that in your image, that image in your head, you're welcome, true. America.
That's so true. Oh, man. At least in the primary, I'd be all in for McConaughey. I'm sure I'd probably support the Republican in the general. But I could just see a debate where Beto's going on, just furiously screaming about what he'd ban, and McConaughey would be over there saying, hey, man, chill out. Take it easy.
Well, now I want him to run, Greg.
This is the most tantalizing gubernatorial bid since Kid Rock was thinking about running for Senate in Michigan. Oh, man. Hey, Kid Rock would be better than Gretchen Whitmer, too. I'd be all for that if the Republicans can't come up with something better there. Anyway, Jim, good way to enter the weekend. Enjoy. I'll see you Monday.
See you Monday, Greg.
Jim Garrity, National Review. I'm Greg Corombos, Radio America. Thanks for being with us today. Also, please subscribe to the 3 Martini Lunch podcast. We're very grateful for those 5-star ratings and your very kind reviews. Please tell your friends about us as well. Remember, you can get us on those home devices. All you have to say is play 3 Martini Lunch podcast. And follow us on Twitter. He's at Jim Garrity. I'm at Dateline_DC. Have a great weekend. And please join us again Monday for the next 3 Martini Lunch.
Joe Biden's immigration policies are already causing huge problems, from stopping border wall construction, releasing criminals into our communities, exposing our children to them, to the desperate people being exploited by the cartels on their way into the United States. I'm Sarah Carter. On The Sarah Carter Show, we are following this issue very closely, and I'll share my expertise and my terrific sources to explain how this impacts our nation and our families. Subscribe to The Sarah Carter Show at Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.